Paris, chérie, mon beau Paris. Hi and welcome to Paris Set Me Free mini photo tutorials. I think it's great when you can tell somebody that there's a cannonball stuck in the wall of an old Parisian chateau right in the heart of the city. Well, there is, and it's in the 4th arrondissement. And you can look at this photograph. This isn't the final one, it's the one that I took and then I played around with it, as you'll see in a minute. And there's that cannonball stuck high up in the wall of this beautiful building, absolutely stunning, with a tower type circular part with one of those witches' hats, black slated top parts to it, complete with a gargoyle looking on in utter amazement. You can imagine almost that he. Okay, I'll show you the finished version. There it is, because you can see better. The gargoyle looking on in utter amazement as this cannonball smashes into his calm place of residence. So there it is. Going back to this one, which I started with, it was night. I don't generally work with a tripod, so I just like to walk around the streets with my camera in my hand, and so you can see that it was pretty tricky. It was nighttime, in fact, or near enough. You can see the sky is a very deep blue, which happens just before the sun really absolutely stops having any influence, which gives gorgeous colours, but it's very tricky. Put my camera probably on 1600 ISO and as wide an aperture as possible, and that means slower shutter speeds, of course, and camera shake. So if you zoomed in on this part here, which is the inscription of the date, indeed it would be pretty fuzzy and difficult to read. Also, because the interest in this photograph is mainly the gargoyle, the turret, and this round part is lovely to look at, and of course the cannonball. You don't need all of these little minaret thingies. No, they're not minarets, but you know what I mean. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. You don't need them all to tell the story that it's a beautifully sculpted, ornate building. So you can chop them around about that second one. It gives enough idea, and leave in the top of this little thing, because a turret without a pointy bit at the top is a bit of a shame. Let's see if I did that, in fact. Yes, I did. You see, I just left in the top. Otherwise, that would be a bit of a incompleteness, which the eye generally doesn't tend to like. So, this was in the revolutionary times of 1830, where the people were coming down into the streets against the royalists, the republicans, barricading the streets, and one of the most turbulent and exciting and fascinating times of French history, when the royals and the people who didn't want kings in power telling them what to do clashed. So you can imagine cannonballs thundering all over the place. And there it is, they've left it, and it's marvellous. It's one of the many amazing little curiosities of Paris. So what did I do with this photograph? I zoomed in on the detail. Indeed. This bit here closes off nicely this corner, so I didn't get rid of it all. As I said, I chopped here, not chopping the top off, leaving 2 of these to tell the story of the beautifully ornate roof. I left some of this round part because it's a beautiful aspect of the building, and ended up with this. Obviously I had to lighten it up a lot. I also did some kind of sharpening without trying to make it too obvious, and so that you might just be able to see that it says 1830. In the larger versions you can, of course, and also to get this brickwork in. And really the only other thing I did was, right at the end, slapped a bit of grain on it. Now grain, it's an interesting thing. Computer grain doesn't come out the same as old-fashioned film grain, although there are some programs you can actually use if the quality of your digital picture is good enough. In other words, grainless enough, computer grainless enough, you can actually apply types of grain from old films. You can decide, I'm going to have a Fuji, I don't know, Fuji 1600 or a Kodak 3200, I can't even remember what they are. You can choose to apply a grain effect, but I stick with a good old computer as we say now, and make the whole thing grainy. Even the sky, I don't care, I like grain. And grain, it doesn't always work, but it does work well with walls, because walls, especially these sandy ones that would embed a stray cannonball quite easily, they are crumbling, they are sandy, so you're not close enough to see the grain of them from this distance. So why not play around a bit and add some computer grain to make the building look as grainy as, in fact, it actually is in real life. You see these crumbling bricks here, that's sand basically, crumbling away. Anything else to say about this one? No, not really. As I said, you see I've left that in. I zoomed in to make sure that you could see the interaction between the gargoyle and the cannonball. Always nice to have some sort of interaction, especially on a diagonal. I had other shots where the gargoyle was closer to the horizontal with the cannonball. No, I like diagonals. The diagonal between the gargoyle and his open mouth, which resembles amazingly the cannonball, is diagonal and more or less follows the diagonal lines of the brickwork going along there. Two slices of rich deep blue, it's extremely grainy here and here, and a photograph which I rescued from a terrible starting point, really extremely dull, hardly any contrast, losing the light, to something which and also pretty fuzzy, to something which I think is reasonable. So that's all for today on this Paris Set Me Free mini photo tutorial. Thanks a lot. If you want to see a very good version, well, reasonably good version of this photograph, do go to the blog parissetmefree.blogspot.com, and thanks for visiting.
Depuis que je suis à Paris, le jour et la nuit, je suis gris. J'ai compris la douceur de vivre. Je suis fou de joie, je suis ivre. Depuis que je suis à Paris.